Just a bit of introduction. I was born in Hong Kong and I moved to San Francisco when I was small. Went to high school there and college in the US. And after that, I worked on Wall Street for a few years. And then the company relocated me back to Hong Kong. And while I was working in Hong Kong as a banker, I had a lot of opportunities to travel to China. And then in line with all my voluntary work on HIV/AIDS, I came across the news that in central China, during the 1990s, a lot of people sold blood in order to make a living, to subsidize their farming income. And due to unsanitary blood collection practices, many of them have contracted HIV/AIDS and died. So I was very curious, and while living in the US for 13 years, I started in San Francisco, where there was the epicenter of HIV/AIDS. I was deeply impacted by the epidemic because my high school teacher died of AIDS, and also at that time there was a lot of social transformation and stigma and discrimination in the US. So I made a trip to visit the local area and see, what happened, not knowing what to do and not knowing if I could help. After that, during that trip, I visited this family. The father already died of AIDS by the time when I visited, which was about 10 years ago, leaving behind the mother and two children behind. As you could see, behind the mother was the older daughter, and there was a young boy lying in front. And you could see that it is of a pretty poor family. It was a Christian family too. And when the mother saw me, she jumped at me and said, "Please help my son." And then when I looked at her son, he was also dying of AIDS, and probably he got it through mother-to-child transmission, and making the older daughter an orphan, losing both parents and the only sibling to HIV. It makes me think about the poverty issue in China as well. I mean, this place is only a few hours by train from Beijing. And as a banker, we travel to places where we see the more prosperous side of China. But in fact, there is still a lot of poverty and inequality, and the gap is also widening in many parts of China. So I said to the mother, maybe there isn't much that I could do for your son, who died a few days after my visit. And then I said, maybe I could help your daughter to go to school. And that has been the spirit of our work, which is to help the AIDS-impacted children to get an education. And then I started thinking how to do this and what we could do. And we decided to focus the work on children. And instead of building orphanages or special schools for them, I believe it is better to put them back into the local communities instead of taking them out. So by empowering the local communities, they can stay with their grandparents and other relatives. And then instead of providing the education ourselves, we could put them in the local school system by financing their education and sponsoring their education. It also is a more sustainable way and also help us to scale up much quicker. And after we started with one village with 127 students whose parents have either died of AIDS or are HIV positive. That is our criteria of sponsorship. And now, after 18 consecutive semesters, we have grown to support over 8,000 children, making us by far the largest non-governmental operation of its kind in China. Cumulatively, we have sent over 13,000 students impacted by AIDS to school, including junior high school, primary, all the way up to university. Now, helping and supporting the education for AIDS-impacted children was only our first goal. My real aspiration is to form a self-sustaining, self-support community network among the students that we support. But in the first semester, we only had 127 students, and they were only in primary school and secondary school. But after 10 years of operation, a lot of the kids have become university students or graduated. I'm proud that over 200 of them have graduated in university, and including 16 of them who came back to work for us as full-time paid staff. So it's very nice to see the children transforming from a kid being helped by us to now someone who has the ability to help others. And another program, a big part of our program, is to enable them to become big brothers and big sisters. Every summer, as of today, they are in the villages teaching younger kids in summer tutoring classes, doing home visits, inspiring the younger kids in the same village who are also AIDS impacted. And this program has been running also for 7 years. The second part I've just mentioned, empowering them to form a community self-help network, and then how to mobilize them to play a part in helping others and serving the society. But I think even a more challenging part is how we can turn around this so-called victimized group of children impacted by AIDS, suffering from poverty and discrimination, into someone who can change the society as a change maker, to social transformation. I had a lesson about 3-4 years ago during my regular home visits. By that time, we were already running big operations helping AIDS orphans and impacted children in China. But during one of my home visits to visit the kids that we are supporting, I visited a home which had a big explosion, and the father of the household died instantly. And then I later learned that that village, many people would bring a lot of gunpowder home to make home-based firecrackers to supplement the income. Because in these poor villages, blood selling is no longer an option, but they remain poor and desperate, so they had to continue doing other high-risk home-based business. So making firecrackers was one of the more popular options in that part of China. So the father was killed instantly. The mother continued to have HIV. So when I think of that, the father and the parents got HIV 10, 15 years ago, and then now died of an explosion. But the father was not really killed by the explosion, nor HIV, but by poverty. If we don't solve the root problem, the mother would have no choice but desperate and continue to work in other high-risk employment, such as underground coal mines. And so it made me feel that we have to do something about the root problem. Otherwise, we would have children orphaned instead of by AIDS. We have children orphaned by explosion, doing firecracker manufacturing, children orphaned by underground coal mines, explosion, etc. So I started with the university students that we supported. We collaborated with the Guanghua and Peter Drucker Academy and offered them a entrepreneurial training workshop. encouraging them to start some local small business in their own village. It's a 6-day training workshop, and after that we have a microfinance loan. Some of them applied for the loan and started a small business in their home village. This is a chicken farm, started with the money we lend to them under a separate program, and not improving the economic situation of his family, but also inspiring other villagers to do the same, and telling them that there are better options than selling blood and making firecrackers. In addition to microfinance, we also run social enterprises, not only to make Chi Heng more sustainable in our income generating or donation generating, but also help the local villages to prosper and generate some income for the AIDS impacted family. So we started an eco-bag workshop in one of the AIDS impacted villages. We hired only HIV positive women, i.e. either the adult students, which were former students who we used to support, or the mother of our students. And the eco bag is sold in 65 hotels in China, and also we got orders from many different places, which gives us a decent income. In fact, we have invested, including sponsorship, about less than 300,000 Hong Kong dollars. But so far, our total revenue has surpassed 1 million Hong Kong dollars, making it a pretty profitable social enterprise. And the operating expenses portion of each bag includes paying salary to these HIV positive women, giving them a more sustainable income so that they don't have to sell blood or make firecrackers. And also is a more dignified way of making an income rather than getting living subsidies. Because they are HIV positive, many of them thought that, oh, they are a useless person waiting to die. But now offering them a job has also a psychosocial value, making them realize that actually I could be a useful person. I could, contribute to my family, and their adherence become better. And the children also has a better standard of living because the mother can make some money. We deliberately set up the workshop in the village so that the women workers could walk to work and then can go home during lunchtime to make lunch for the kids. And then in addition to the social value, the financial return of the bags are used to support Chi Heng's, the charity part, to support the education of our AIDS impacted children. And of course, the use of these all cotton bags would reduce the use of plastic, so achieving a triple bottom line of social, financial, and environmental return. We also run a volunteerism summer camp and tours to the villages, because I think I had what changed my life was that visit to the village. It's not because in the past I was not aware of the situation, but seeing this really touched my heart and made me started to do something. And I believe by bringing more people who are more privileged and fortunate and in power of influence, and to see what I saw can make them, prompt them to do something as well. So with that belief, we started the volunteerism idea, not only to generate income as a social enterprises, employing our university students as local tour guides, and having lunch and in the local villages, providing them income, but more importantly, bringing more people to see the situation and hoping that they can become a supporter of the cause as well. That's why in the past we have done a lot of workshops focusing on young people, hoping that the young people could generate a sense of social responsibility and also realize the more fortunate part of their life and appreciate what it is. What they have is actually very precious. So the cycle goes from getting in touch with a group of underprivileged, stigmatized group of children, to helping them to help themselves, and then helping them to help their own villages to tackle the poverty issue in the villages, and at the same time serving the supporters who help them to also become part of what we do. So I have a lot of friends who said that, Chung, I really admire what you do, but I have 3 kids, I have a big mortgage, so I cannot do what you're doing. But I think everyone could start small and do something on their own. And with that small change, we could be in a much better world. Thank you very much.